Grace and peace, everyone. We are back. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. Let's get to it. So today, March 6th, as of recording, the Georgia State Senate has called Ashliee Merchant to the Gold Dome to testify about the investigation, or to do an investigation into what all happened as it relates to the Fani Willis case. And I think it's going to be super interesting. So definitely want you to check that out. I'm gonna leave the link for it down in the description as well. I had intended to kind of maybe even live stream it today, but big problem, good problem to have. I actually have somebody who's coming to the studio to record today. So I had set it up for my 11 o'clock recording, but I got somebody coming in today at 10. So anyway, today we're going to just real quick summarize this, kind of what to expect. What should you expect if you do watch this? I've listened to a couple of big brains, a couple legal minds and such like that. And this is an article that I think would be very helpful. It is from the Atlanta News First. Defense attorney subpoena to appear before the state committee investigating Fulton DA Fani Willis. All right, so let's keep this game going. Defense attorney Ashliee Merchant, and she's on the thumbnail. She's a young lady that really kind of kicked this whole case off by her interaction with Terrence Bradley, has been subpoenaed to appear before the Georgia State Senate committee hearing on Wednesday, that's today, as it investigates the actions of a Fulton County DA, Fani Willis. And Merchant confirmed to CNN that she had been subpoenaed for the hearing, which will be live streamed. And again, I dropped the link to, this is the 11 Alive? Yeah, 11 Alive, which is a news outlet here in Atlanta. You can check it out there. Of course, I'm sure it'll be live streamed everywhere. I have no fear about that. So it won't be a matter of where to watch it. It'll just be who's watching it with you. The Georgia Legislative Committee, formed in January to investigate the Fulton County District Attorney, said they plan to issue subpoenas as they investigate Willis, the Democratic state prosecutor who brought the racketeering case against Donald Trump and his allies for the actions after the 2020 election. So this is going to be really interesting. Merchant, the defense attorney for a Donald Trump co-defendant, is the first person to be issued a subpoena by the committee. She initially launched the investigations, or rather the allegations, of an improper relationship against Willis and Nathan Wade, the lead prosecutor in the case. The controversy has threatened to undermine the case against Trump in Georgia. Let me just stop for a second. I'm going to give my prognostication. I'm just going to let you know what I'm thinking. I know you probably want to know, what is Dear Woke Christian thinking about this thing? So let me real quick. This is not going to result in as much. Well, let me start again. This is going to result in probably the disbarment of one, if not two attorneys that are involved in this case. Now, whoever it'll be, Fani, Nate, or Terrence, I don't know. But this investigation is probably going to lead to at least two of them being disbarred. I don't know who they're going to be, so on and so forth. I don't know if there's going to be some ethics charges, some censures, or whatever like that. But this will be the penalization for them. Oh wait, is it coming on? Yo, oh, it's on. Oh,
Gloria
no.
Butler, I think they're both en route, but we do have a quorum, so we'll call our meeting to order.
I did not expect it to start on time.
The Senate Special
I thought
Committee
this
on
would be on CP
Investigations.
time. Don't you know that's racist, man, to be on time? Oh, well, let me finish then. I apologize. Okay, I do think that this committee right here is going to be the reason that some of these lawyers lose their license or are censored or disbarred even. I think this is going to be the reason why. I don't think that Judge McAfee is going to reopen the case, and we'll talk about that later, because all this week there have been all kinds of new witnesses popping up and so on and so forth. I don't think Judge McAfee is going to reopen the case. Judge McAfee is tired of this. And from the tenor that I'm getting, most people want this to go away as quickly as possible so that we can get to other things that are definitely pressing here in the city of Atlanta and abroad. So real quick, I'm gonna finish this. Wow, I did not expect them to start on time. Wow, let me finish this up real quick. Merchant, the defense attorney, I just said that already. At the committee's first meeting in February, State Senate Bill Cowsworth, the Republican chair, laid out the plans to subpoena and depositions as part of the investigation into alleged misconduct by Willis. Cowsworth said the panel already has heard from whistleblowers, but did not elaborate on what information they provided. He said that the committee intended to dig into the credible allegations, no matter how long the investigation takes. And this is the last sentence that I think really tells me, to me, this right here. He said the committee intends to dig into any credible allegations, no matter how long the investigation takes. To me, Jason, I think this is how we know that Fannie and the rest of the crew are cooked, because they are going to go after them as long as it takes. So Judge McAfee does not want any piece of this, in my opinion. So getting them off of his docket as quickly as possible and let the committee have at them would probably be the best thing. And the best thing to do would have them not to be prosecuting a case. So therefore, disqualify them, get them out of the way, get Judge McAfee back to doing what he's supposed to be doing, everybody else back to what they're supposed to be doing. The committee will have at them. Then the Georgia Bar will have at them. Ethics committees will have at them after that. So that's why I don't believe, I think the testimony is going to be very interesting, depending on the questions that are asked of Lady Merchant. And I think this is her right here in the middle. That looks like it's probably her. So based upon what they ask her, there she is. Okay, let's hear it real quick.
Committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes, I do.
All right. So, well, if you will just continue with the transcript as we go. If you get hung up at any time and I fail to hit the right microphone and you can't hear who's saying anything, let me know. The way our procedures work is that I will be asking the questions, and minority party will have an opportunity upon request to ask questions as well. I've discussed this with the minority whip, Senator Jones, and he may or may not ask questions towards the conclusion, or maybe even at a break. If you want to, just let me know. Ms. Merchant, would you please just identify yourself and let the committee know? You see all our name tags to see who's on here. You know who we are, but let us know who you are.
I did not intend for this.
What your profession is, background, et cetera.
Definitely. My name is Ashliee Merchant. My first name is spelled A-S-H-L-E-I-G-H. Last name Merchant, M-E-R.
You're going to need to pull that mic a little closer to
Thank
you.
you.
Is
it okay? I have a notepad just in case I get two questions at the same time. I like to make a note to make sure that I remember.
The committee knows the rules. We passed them unanimously at our last meeting, and you actually have the right to counsel if you want to. It's not like a court proceeding where we're going to be having objections, et cetera. But since you are an attorney, apparently you're very comfortable responding. Okay, didn't mean to cut you off. Let's just make sure everybody can hear you there.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I was sworn in as a member of the bar in 2004, so I've been a criminal defense attorney for 20 years. I started out when I first graduated from law school. I came to Atlanta and I did an externship with the Southern Center for Human Rights, and then once I was sworn in as a member of the bar, I became a public defender in Fulton County. I was there for 4.5 years until I started my private practice, the Merchant Law Firm. We had an office in Fulton County at first. Now we're in Cobb County. I'm in practice with my husband, John Merchant, and we do criminal defense primarily.
And do you have any other roles or affiliations? I've seen just press articles about you.
Yes, so I do. I've been very blessed to have a lot of active roles in the community. I was the former president of the Cobb County Bar Association Criminal Defense Section. I was sworn in January as the president of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. I've been a member of that for 20 years, member of the Cobb County Bar Association, very active in both of those roles. I've been honored with several different awards, one from the Cobb County Bar Association, Defender of Justice, or Champion of Justice, I'm sorry, a couple years ago. And then, I've been honored with Rising Star Awards, Super Lawyers, and the Daily Report has different awards back when I was younger, 40 under 40. Wouldn't qualify, unfortunately, for that anymore. But and then recently I was awarded at our annual meeting for the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. I was very honored to receive award about my work defending the Constitution.
Okay. So you are the current president of the Criminal Defense Lawyers Group?
Yes, yes, and it's the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. We go by GACDL. We have about 1,500 members right now. We're aiming to get around 2,000, but we're one of the largest defense bars in the country.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your trial experience over these last 20 years.
So I started doing post-conviction work, which is, after a person is convicted, doing appeals and habeas work. Then I went into misdemeanor trial work at first when I was a public defender. I moved into the complex felony division, which is where the majority of my practice has lied. I do about half of my practice is appeals, appellate work in the Georgia Supreme Court and the Georgia Court of Appeals. The other half is trial.
Okay, I got to say something ridiculous. Why the black lady got to be the first one in here late? What's up with that? What's up with that? Okay. Woo, I did not intend to do this.
So I will end up helping them on that, but primarily complex felonies.
All right. And during the course of your practice here in the Atlanta area, tell us a little bit about your involvement. And I'm just going to refer to these as the election interference cases. I think there's 16 or 17 defendants. You are involved in those cases, I know from seeing the news.
Yes.
Who do you represent?
I represent a gentleman named Michael Roman. I was hired late August, early September, I think it was late August, to represent him. He lives out of state, does not live in Georgia. But so I've been his defense attorney since the time of indictment.
All right, so late August or September of 2023?
Yes, I began working on his case in late August of 23. I think I looked this morning, I filed my official entry on September 1st of 23, and then I negotiated bond for him, walked through the turn-in process, and began negotiations with the prosecutors.
What exactly is he charged with? What's the offense he's been charged with?
He's charged with conspiring to violate the Racketeering Act, so RICO. He's also charged with some of the more specific allegations for him are attempted and conspiracy to file false documents. So essentially, I've classified the indictment. The easiest way for me to classify the indictment is there's the folks that are federal officers, there's the folks that are charged in the alternate elector process, and then there's Coffee County. He's in that middle section.
So that's the alternate elector process?
Yes.
And those are the documents that are deemed to be false. They're
Yes, that's what he's charged with. He's charged with false, filing false documents, false swearing, things like that, forgery.
And to be clear, you do not represent any of these alternate electors.
No, I only represent Michael Roman.
And you don't represent Donald Trump.
No, I do not represent Donald Trump.
Your involvement in the case is just for Michael Roman.
Yes, exclusively Michael Roman, and that's my duty.
You have produced quite a few documents to us.
Yes.
Do you have any concerns as to whether any of those documents are protected by attorney-client privilege?
I don't have any concerns about that. I do have some privacy concerns because you mentioned earlier that there were some financial documents that are not redacted, and so those would need to be redacted. That would be the only thing, but they're not. Phone numbers, I believe I redacted all the phone numbers, but there are some financial documents that are probably sensitive.
Okay. As far as Mr. Roman is concerned, is he giving you permission to speak freely about his case and about the evidence or documents you've accumulated in the course of his defense? Yes,
we went over the subpoena that I received and the classification of documents that I was asked to give. All of those were things that I obtained through discovery, not discovery from the state, but through my own. So we have a protective order in the case. So anything that I've obtained through the state could potentially be subject to that protective order. But these were all documents that I obtained through my investigation.
Okay. Most of the members of this committee are attorneys, but not all.
Okay.
And I recognize that the general public will be hearing some of this or either now or later. Tell me a little bit about when you're talking about state's discovery. What do you mean by that? I know, but
Right.
everybody else may not.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So we have a statute in Georgia that allows us to do what called opt-in. So if we opt into the discovery statute, that means we're engaging in reciprocal discovery, which means that the state has to give us a copy of all of the material that they plan on using at trial. They also have to give us copies of anything that would be arguably exculpatory. And so in this case, there's been a lot of discovery exchanged because obviously there's a lot of defendants. And if they wanted to classify something as sensitive, they would do so. And then if we wanted to be able to disseminate it to any third party outside of our practice, we would have to have court permission to do that.
Yeah.
But when we are investigating a case, not everything comes through discovery. So in general, I would investigate a case on my own, and those items are things that I did not receive from the state. So we've got different classes of documents. The documents that I actually received from the state through discovery, through formal discovery, and then documents that I developed on my own.
Okay. And out of these documents that you've obtained from the state through formal discovery, that they're obligated to provide defense attorneys to fairly defend your client, some of those have been deemed to be sensitive and that are not freely disseminated?
Yes, yes. The state, how the protective order works, and the protective order is public. It was publicly filed. If the state deems something sensitive, they let us know that. And if we dispute that or we have some reason that we want it to be able to be disseminated, we would have to go to the court and basically argue over that.
Fair to say any of the documents you have provided to our committee were things that you obtained outside of that formal discovery process and are not subject to any protective order?
Yes, I did not. Nothing that was subject to the subpoena or that I provided was something that I got from the state.
Okay.
And nothing was subject to that protective order. I went through and was very clear on that.
Okay. And I'm wanting to make sure of this because this committee has made it clear from the beginning it is not our intent in any way to interfere with the criminal prosecutions, and so I would not want to be circumventing a court order that was for the protection of the privacy of the parties to that case. It is not our job to interfere in that case at all or in your motion to disqualify Ms. Willis.
I appreciate that. And I was very cautious because I certainly don't want to go against a court order
Sure.
Protecting, so I did not disclose any of those documents.
So tell me a little bit about the special grand jury process. It sounds like that occurred before you were ever even hired in this case.
It did. It occurred.
Okay, so real quick. So Ashliee has introduced herself, just to jump in. Ashliee has introduced herself. She's explained her background, her bona fides, and how she came into the case, and then the information that she has shared with the special committee up to this point. And now she's explaining the grand jury process, and how basically, I think they're basically going to explain how all these people got indicted in the first place. So let's go back and wow.
Followed that in the news before I was involved in the case because it's very unique. It's not something that happens very often. Normally when we see a special purpose grand jury, it's some type of investigation into a jail or something like that. So it was kind of unique to see that. But from reading everything, my understanding is a lot of the witnesses weren't willing to necessarily talk without a grand jury, and so that's one of the reasons that they had to impanel a special purpose grand jury. But it was very unique.
I've been practicing here a long, long time, and I haven't seen a special purpose grand jury to basically advise the DA, apparently, or a subsequent grand jury as to whether there's evidence to prosecute. Is that essentially what it did?
That is exactly what it did, yes. So, and now through the discovery process, I've been able to review a lot of the transcripts and also talk with a lot of the lawyers who were involved and witnesses that were involved in the special purpose grand jury. But that's what they did. They used that process to subpoena, particularly out-of-state witnesses. So in Georgia, it's always difficult when we have a witness who's out of state because we have the interstate compact. We have to get a certification to get a witness subpoenaed from out of state. It is not easy. It is one of the more difficult aspects of our job. So they use the grand jury process, the special purpose grand jury process, to bring in testimony and bring in witnesses from out of state. They issued a lot of target letters to people back and forth. That there was a lot of people that were targets and then weren't targets who testified, maybe negotiated some type of immunity, things like that throughout that special purpose grand jury.
Okay. And is that made public to other defense attorneys if immunity has been granted to any witnesses?
I don't know if it was made public originally. I know that some of it has been provided to us through discovery. We had a motions hearing where the judge ordered that the state give us copies of transcripts because they had everything recorded. So there's a transcript from the special purpose grand jury. It's my understanding there's a transcript from just about everything, but it does appear like sometimes that was cut off. So there are some sections that were recorded and then maybe a section wasn't recorded and then they went back on the record. But it was recorded, which we rarely get in a regular grand jury. We rarely, if ever, get that type of testimony. So that was very unique to have.
Is the state required to let you know if they've granted immunity to any witnesses that may have been utilized in the special grand jury process or in seeking the indictment?
Yes, they are. And, some of that has been given to us through discovery. Some of it has been given to us from other attorneys, the attorneys who maybe represented those parties. There was a lot of back and forth. There were a lot of, and this, I believe this was all public, that some of our state representatives, I think the governor in particular, were subpoenaed, and there was a back and forth over who could grant immunity, who had the power in that office to grant immunity. And that's something that I reviewed in my work on this motion with the DA's office, because Mr. Wade was the one that took over that power. And so the emails that were attached to a lot of the pleadings, it was interesting. It first started out that there was someone else in the DA's office who's actually an employee of the DA's office who was negotiating all of that. And then it evolved to another member of the DA's staff, and then ultimately it was Mr. Wade, and there's emails where he said, I'm the only one that can grant immunity. I'm the only one that has the power to do this. I'm in charge.
Was he engaged or involved in the special grand jury process?
Oh, very much so. He was by far the lead of it.
Right. And do you have the timeline of when that special grand jury was authorized and when it began to meet?
Yes, I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but there is an order, and I can.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I've already texted the person that's coming to the studio to record today and just say, hey, you're going to have to record a little later. This is so interesting to me. I don't know about y'all, but this is super interesting. I'm just going to let you know right now, tonight we will be going live again tonight. Because this is great. This is great. I'm really interested in this. I didn't intend to. I just thought I was going to come on real quick. I did not realize that it was going to be starting on time. I don't got to put off work. I'm just, look, I'm sorry. This is interesting. This thing that already captured my attention. I'm sorry. Hit like in the, hit the like button and type the word Pantene if you joked about Ashlee's hair. Because I see some people already joked about her hair, saying she got her hair done. But, this is so interesting. Let's go back. Let's go. I wish they had a closed caption on. Wait, so Ashlee just said, sorry about that. Ashlee just said that she has worked in every county in Georgia. Ashliee, that's 120 counties in Georgia. That's crazy. All right, let's get back to this. This is super interesting, y'all. I don't know what we're gonna do. Please, Lord, don't let it be 4 hours long. Please don't let this be 4 hours long, because I'm telling you right now, I am going to be miserable if this is 4 hours long, because I'm going to watch the whole thing. I'm sorry. I'm really intrigued. Goodness
and
gracious.
also financial improprieties. And we're tasked with investigating and finding the true facts, and not just taking the press at face value. And that's why we're asking you for documents, et cetera, so we can independently verify the various allegations that have been made. But we're also specifically tasked with, if necessary, amending existing statutes.
Right.
Or creating new statutes to build guardrails or whatever to
Thank
essentially
you for the super chat,
restore
Willie Doc.
public
Shout out to
faith
my brother Willie Doc.
in our criminal justice system, in its impartiality and its fairness. And I have looked at some of the existing statutes, but it's very sketchy. What is the real authority? And we wonder if we need statutory authority or statutory limitations. And so I want to explore with you a little bit what the authority is for a special grand jury to be conducting a criminal investigation, and also the use of a special assistant district attorney is what I'm referring it to. Right. But and so that's the context. You have done that research, so help walk us through this just a little bit. Is there a statutory process that gives authority to utilize a special grand jury to advise a DA or to essentially accumulate evidence for a DA to determine whether or not to indict?
Right. So the first question was about whether this happens throughout the state or not. I did do open records to every single district attorney in the entire state of Georgia to find out, because I wanted to know, I knew based on my practice that it was a very rare process, but I wanted to know, I wanted the data. I wanted to actually see it. So we did an open records for every single district attorney. We have received responses from almost all of them. There's only a couple that we haven't, but I don't know that those would be big factors. The few that were remaining, I think it was Augusta that I haven't received one from. But I talked with two of the prosecutors in those districts. There's only two that actually use something that would be akin to this. And one of them said they haven't done it in years, but they have done it. And they paid between $40 and $40 an hour, which tends to be about the going rate for appointed counsel. It's between $40 and $60 an hour, I know, for appointed counsel in most counties. And then the other county that did use them, they use a
Fanny gonna get in so much trouble. Did she just say $60 an hour? That means they're gonna get in so much trouble. Oh my gosh. Did she just say $60 an hour is the high? Oh my gosh.
This is very unique to Fulton County, which I assumed, but I didn't know until I did the research. Nobody does this but Fulton County. And the AG's office does it, and so we got a lot of arguments from the state about, well, the Attorney General's office does it, but that's a whole different statute. It's not even the same section. So the Attorney General is authorized because they represent all of the state agencies. They are authorized to hire outside counsel, and they have to because there's a lot of conflict issues, and so it makes sense. So you've got different needs for hiring outside counsel. You've got conflicts, if there's a conflict, and if there's a conflict, you'd have to hire someone who's outside of the office. You couldn't hire someone like in this case, like Mr. Wade, to be special counsel because they're in the office. So you can't, when you have a legal conflict, you have to have, the offices have to be separate. So with the AG, that's usually what happens. Sometimes it's specialized knowledge. I mean, you've got people who are representing commissioners. You've got people who are representing, people in certain agencies in the state, in certain types of power. And so it might be a specialized practice area. So the Attorney General is authorized, and they actually publish it on their website, all of the rates. It's very transparent. So I went through and looked at everybody's rate. I mean, it's very transparent. How much they pay, it's based on experience. They get approval for that. They get approval for the appropriations for it, and it's just extremely transparent, which is in direct contradiction to how it works in Fulton County.
And do you know how many judicial districts we have in Georgia? I don't.
I do not. I could look at my open records request. So the judicial districts, there would be a district attorney for each of those.
She already said that they based the salary on expertise. And since Nathan didn't have any expertise trying a felony trial, any felonies, period, any RICO, period, this is going to go south so bad, so bad.
There's only 3 of them have ever done it?
Only 2.
Only 2.
Only 2 had ever done
Fulton
it.
County is one of them.
Only 2. Well, oh, yes. I'm sorry. It's 3 counting Fulton County.
Okay.
I did not send an open records to Fulton County on that because I already knew that they did it. So
Is there a statute that authorizes that?
There is a statute, and I cite it, if I may, I cite it in my brief.
Feel free.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to misquote it. Let's see. So it's 15-80-20. And how I came to learn that is I actually contacted the Prosecuting Attorney's Council early on in this case, and because I was trying to figure out the legality of this. You know, I did open records and I found out how much money the special counsels in this case were being paid. And there's about 20 different people in Fulton County that are paid under this type of arrangement. It's the largest personnel budget item in the DA's office.
Why wouldn't you just hire more assistant DAs and have them in-house?
That's what I didn't understand, and that's what, I mean, in my opinion, obviously, I think that's what should happen. But the reason that it wouldn't happen is because if you're hired as an assistant DA, you can't take private work. So the statutes, and they're all in section 15.8.
Okay, so somebody just asked a question. Does anybody know how many hours he claimed to work? I don't know, but I'm starting to think, based upon the questions, that they are going to drive home the point. They're only going to bolster the case, that Nathan was paid so much in order that that money could be funneled to Fannie. Because a lot of that has actually been a lot of people have been hinting that, he got paid this much because he was taking care of himself and Fannie with this money. And they're kind of making that argument. I don't know. This might actually go, I still don't think that Judge McAfee is going to reopen the case. But this is getting wild. Oh my God.
I'd say around $150,000. But there's limitations. So to answer your question, why you wouldn't just hire an assistant district attorney, first, they couldn't make as much money as independent counsels, or I'm sorry, not independent, special counsels, couldn't make that much money, but they also would be limited in their law practice. They wouldn't be able to have private practice, and that's by statute. So if you are hired as an assistant DA, you cannot have a private law practice also.
Do you know how many there are in Fulton County DA's office?
How many special prosecutors?
No, how many assistant district attorneys?
No, I actually open records that, and it was declined. So we actually have a pending open records lawsuit, which I did bring. I asked for that. I asked for how many were hired, when they were fired, and they declined to give me that under the Open Records Act. So we ended up filing a lawsuit, and that's still pending.
Because it just occurs to me, I think there's certainly dozens of them.
Yes.
Maybe 100.
I think 100 would be a fair example, or a fair number based on just my knowledge of it. But there's quite a few, and if you had a certain amount of money that they spend several $1 million on these special prosecutors, that could be spent on a lot more assistant district attorneys.
Do you know the process in Fulton County on how you approve the budget for the DA's office? Is that something controlled by the county, or does the DA have total discretion? It's
controlled by the county, and I do know I actually went back and watched a lot of budget meetings. They have their budget meetings online. I read a lot of the transcripts, and so it's very interesting. It's kind of a long answer, though. Depending on who you are, in Fulton County depends on how your budget is approved. So, for example, the county attorney, if they want to hire special counsel, and pay them hourly, like in this case, they go and they get that approved at the county level. They actually appear in front of the county Board of Commissioners and say, we need to hire this person at this rate, and they approve the rate. They monitor the bills. They do all of that stuff. So that's what happens at the county attorney's office.
Okay, the county attorney represents the county, is not prosecuting criminals like the DA does.
Oh, I know
Correct.
exactly
It's civil.
where you're
So the
going.
county attorney does all civil things. In this case, they actually did end up representing.
I know exactly where they're going. They're trying to prove that Fannie sidestepped how to pay Nathan. That's where they're trying to get to. Yo, this is getting out of control. Yo, that's exactly where they're about to go. They're about to prove that Fannie sidestepped the proper channels to pay Nathan $650,000. And therefore, oh my goodness.
And it's a resolution authorizing funding for additional personnel. And basically, they go and they say, we need this for this project. We need this budgetary
That's what
item, and
they're
it's
trying to
approved. It comes out of their budget, though. So they're not going and asking for more money for the county attorney's budget. They're just asking to use the county money that they've already been allotted for this special counsel. The district attorney has taken a different position, and I was surprised. So I watched hundreds of hours of Board of County Commissioners meetings just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, that she never went and asked for approval for any of these special prosecutors.
Her budget is granted through the Fulton County?
It is.
It's in a part of its budget?
It is. So it's these special prosecutors have been paid a couple different ways. They were paid with state seizure money. So the first, around $100,000 of Mr. Wade's funding came from state seizure money. It appeared from looking at the budgets for the state seizure that fund ran out. So then it started coming from the general fund. But it was money so Ms. Willis had a budget right around the time that she hired Mr. Wade and these other special prosecutors. She went and asked for more money for a backlog. And so she was given extra money, and that money's been renewed since. It was given to her to hire 55 additional personnel, and it's actually in the resolution. She went in front of the Board of County Commissioners and asked for it.
When was that? Do you know?
That was, I do actually, because I attached it to my brief. So I know the dates of things. September 15th, 2021 is when she presented her PowerPoint to the Fulton County Board of County Commissioners. And she gave a lot of statistics about all the unindicted homicides. It was mainly about homicides. It is, there was some about sexual offenses, but it was almost all about homicides. She said that, why am I here? The great trifecta: crime is on the rise, historic mismanagement, and then the COVID backlog. And so she asked for quite a bit of money to hire additional personnel. It was, I can tell you. That year it was $780,000.
And that's in the fall of 2021, just before this special grand jury was impaneled?
Yes. So that happened, she was awarded that money September 15th, 2021, and she actually did get the resolution and the process that you would normally expect.
How much was that addition or increase to her budget?
Not to exceed $5 million.
Wow.
So she was awarded for the end of 2021, which this is September 15th. She was awarded for September until December 31st, $780,000. It said, and then the next year, not to exceed up to $5 million.
So hang on for 1 minute. My vice chairman here, Chairman Dolezal, is way more high-tech oriented than I am.
Okay.
He has downloaded some of your documents that you produced to us that I had asked him to have available so we could see them here. And I think you have produced to us this PowerPoint presentation that Ms. Willis made to the County Commission in September of 21 to allegedly fund a backlog of murder cases.
Okay, so far, Ashliee has introduced herself. She's given all of her bona fides. What was that? What is that? She's given her bona fides, and now they're just explaining who are those people on the side? I am just nosy. Basically explaining how the DA received his money and how I divvied it up. I really think they're trying to show that Fannie did not properly manage the monies coming in. And did it kick me off? What is that? What happened? Oh, they're back. So we'll see. Let's keep it going. I only got a few more minutes though. I do have to get ready to jet out of here. I was just going to just give a quick little summary about what to expect today. And the thing came on while we were talking. I did not expect it. So let's go.
Counsel to assist you today.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
What are those proper procedures?
You have to get approval by the Board of County Commissioners. And the statute that I cited originally, 1820, that statute actually is the one that it says that you can hire additional personnel like this, but it has to have county approval. Okay. So, I mean, the statute says it already.
It doesn't say you can hire.
When you were asking about changing statutes, I mean, it's clear in the statute that it has to be approved by either local law or the governing authority, which would be the county in this place, and in this instance. And it's very specific that it can't be paid with state funds.
Anything in that September 15th of 2021 proposal or request for funding that addressed or contemplated special counsel to pursue indictments against folks for election fraud?
No, not at all. And I watched the.
You know what, Neva? That's a great point. I don't know. I don't know if they mentioned contractors because they said that Nathan was a contractor. He wasn't. And I don't know. That might be splitting hairs. Maybe it's like the same thing. Maybe they meant. I don't know. That's a great question, though. That's a really good call out.
Records based on this, asking who was hired and the dates of hire because I wanted to be able to track that, and that was denied.
And who made that denial, the DA's office or the county?
The DA's office. And I did bring the open records lawsuit just in case you had any questions about that. So it was the county, and I can tell you when I filed it. Let me see. And we went back and forth, and I requested it several times, but it was Dexter Bond at the DA's office who sent a letter back and said, wow. we don't have that. We don't have to give it to you. He's
like the chief assistant for Fonnie Willis.
He is, and he's also the one who went to the Board of County Commissioners whenever they needed funding. So if they had some large printing, and they had a big rebranding campaign where they had a lot of money that was spent on this rebranding, like posters and things like that around the office, and he had to go and testify in front of the Board of County Commissioners to get that paid because they were not paying it. So he's sort of the go-between with the Board of County Commissioners. His official title is something like Chief Legal Officer or something like that. But he's an attorney.
So you've gone back and reviewed all of the Fulton County Commission's minutes and records to see what requests were made and if there was a resolution granting the additional funding?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Was there ever a request for additional funding for a special prosecutor to pursue these election cases?
No, there wasn't, and I knew that before we got the district attorney's response, but subsequently we got a response from the district attorney's office that said, we didn't do it, we don't have to do it, I'm a constitutional officer. So their argument was, we don't have to comply with those statutes or those rules because she's saying she's a constitutional officer, so she doesn't have to get county approval. She can spend her budget however she wants.
Then why would she have gotten county approval for the other 55 attorneys?
So what I've surmised is that was because those were staff members, and so she went and asked for additional budgetary money. She needed a higher budget. So for those 55 people, she went and asked for more money because she didn't have enough money. And once she was awarded that, it's her position now that she can spend that money however she wants.
Doesn't have to use it for 55 new staff. She can use it for Special Attorney General.
Yes.
Not Attorney General,
Special
DA.
counsel. Right. Yes. Wow. Essentially, that is their argument in their reply briefs that they filed in court, that they have inherent authority. They don't have to comply with the county ordinances, don't have to comply with the statute.
So they don't have to comply with our state statute.
That they have once they're awarded the budget, they can use that budget. However, I mean how their motion, and I'm happy to send the motion. It's public record, but how their motion argued it was, if they get $5 million, they can pay that to one person if they want, as long as because the voters authorized her to do that. So the county, their position is the county authorizes a budget, and she can pretty much has inherent authority to do it however.
Even though she specifically asked for the money to prosecute backlogged homicide cases in Atlanta.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
What's your opinion on that? You think the statute or county procedures permit that?
No, I do not. And I cited several different county county ordinances. So when I read the statute, when I read 15-1820, and it makes sense, it makes sense intuitively. As lawyers, when we bill, someone is reviewing our bills. I mean, that's just, that's the process. If you're in private practice, your client authorizes your bills. If you're doing public defense, which I've done public defense, I've done appointed work, the governing agency approves my bills, and they will cut them. They will regularly cut them if they're too high. And so there's always some type of budgetary authority that's reviewing everything. So I thought it was very strange that in this case there isn't one, and that there's really no oversight, because it is public money. So I know that it's an elected official, but it's still public money. And I don't live in Fulton County, so it would probably aggravate me more if I did.
Where you live? You live up here in Cobb County.
So we have the code section up that you're referencing for prosecuting attorneys getting additional personnel. That's what Mr. Wade would qualify as, correct?
Yes. So under B, that's the section that authorizes the appointment of special counsel, and it says the man.
Wow, this is absolutely crazy. Fannie said,
Ain't nobody got time for that.
she got to get this. She got to hire these people. Fannie said, I do not have time to be worried about this stuff. Oh, man. I really think this is going to go way left. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is going to be insane. All right. Chime in. What do y'all think so far, man? Let me know down in the comments, like in the chat. What are y'all thinking so far? Like, give me an emoji to depict what you're thinking. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is definitely sirens blaring for sure. I'm definitely right there with you. Like, yo, I don't know how this is going to work out. And I heard somebody today say, like, it was a big nothing. Like the whole trial was a big nothing. And Fannie didn't do anything wrong, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how you're going to come up. I don't know how they came up with that. It was actually a news person here in Atlanta. And I really disagree. Like, I don't know how there's no dumpster fire emoji. We should be able to put memes in YouTube comments. I would love for that. Yeah, this is bad. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Susie Q. Let me move myself out of the way. This is bad. And to know that so many people are watching this and so many people are paying close attention now, like this is a warning whistle, if you will, for other DAs. Like, yo, y'all can't be wilding out like that, because now people are aware of what y'all be doing. Yeah, I do think everything went through Fannie. Let's go ahead and finish this up. I got a few minutes before I do actually have to get scooting out of here. But thank y'all for watching this with me and kicking this off. Man, this has been crazy.
So the contracts indicate that the bills are submitted to her. She doesn't sign off on all of them. A lot of them were signed off on by other people in her office, purchasing people and things like that. So there's no evidence that I was able to find that she actually scrutinized these bills or reviewed them or anything like that, but she may have.
Okay. And you mentioned that attorneys that are working for state agencies or whatever, including the special assistant attorney generals, submit bills on like itemized statement on what services they've rendered?
Yes, and the Attorney General has very specific guidelines on that. What you can bill for, how you have to bill, and is told to remind. There's a reminder that this is public service. So essentially, be judicious in your billing.
Right, you go voluntarily get underpaid to be able to help the public.
And a lot of people view it as public service, I think.
Are those bills submitted in like tenths of? I do some billing, in my job, and it's usually tenth of an hour.
Yes.
Are there rules or guidelines or sort of standards of practice and how you bill?
Yes. So most law firms, I know because my husband used to work at a law firm, is 6-minute increments, and that's how most lawyers bill in the private sector. Public, it appears that most of them are in 10-minute increments. I know that's what all of the indigent defense groups, they all are 10-minute increments, but I've never seen anything above that.
Okay. And on the open records request you made to the other judicial circuits, how did those outside counsel bill?
I honestly, I would have to go back and look. They were very small bills, though. They were making less than $2,000 a year, so they were small bills, and they were project based, which I think is also different. They would be hired to do a certain project.
If Ms. Willis had hired a employee, one of these 55 employees, and task them with the job of going through a special grand jury process and helping seek indictments, investigate these allegations, what's the most they could have made?
Well, first, she couldn't have hired Mr. Wade because it violates county policy. So she would not have been able to hire Mr. Wade as an employee.
How does that violate county policy?
They have a lot of policies on nepotism, relationships, personal. There's a lot of guidelines in the county policies. So she would not have been able to hire him. It would not have been approved. And that would be something that actually did have to get approved by the county. And because
Shots fired. I got air horn that one. Wow.
Direct employee of the district attorney's office.
Exactly. He
This
could not.
process circumvented those rules and ethical obligations.
Yes, it did.
Let's say it wasn't Mr. Wade.
So if it wasn't Mr. Wade and someone else, I believe most of the other prosecutors on this case make around $175,000 annually.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, that was
Back-
the answer. So if she had hired Mr. Wade or somebody else as a salaried employee, they would make around $175,000, most likely.
So using this technique that didn't obtain approval and didn't have to follow the ethical guidelines of her own office, she was able to pay him $700,000 over 2 or 3 years.
Yes, and
Way more than he would have made as an employee.
way more, and also he's able to have a private practice, which is significant because you're not able to have a private practice if you're an employee. So that's a big issue.
Have you reviewed his billings?
Yes, I have.
Senator Dolezal, will you give us an example of one? I think we have one we're just going to pull
Oh,
up
they just
randomly, kind of. Okay, is that
this woman.
an example of the
man.
type of invoices he would submit?
Yes, it is, and so
That's an actual one, isn't it?
that is an actual one, and so there's a couple things on this. You asked earlier about the authorization, that stamp that says okay to pay. I believe that's Dexter Bond's signature. So that was one where, Ms. Willis didn't approve it or didn't review it, at least as far as we know from the signatures.
But her chief legal officer did.
Right. So they would do that stamp okay to pay, sign it, and then send it to purchasing. But yes, this is one of the bills, and so he had monthly caps, which went up. There were a couple different contracts that were renewed. So he had one contract that expired, another contract, and the monthly cap was $35,000 a month. So that's where you see the total. But this billing is not something that you would normally see.
All right, well, I'm noticing it lists the day and just a number of hours. There's no real itemization of exactly how much time you spend doing whatever type
6
of
minutes.
task.
Right. There's none at all. And I tried to I also open records because in Fulton County you have a badge to access everywhere. So I didn't open records for his badge access. I was told he didn't have a badge. I was told by other witnesses that he did. So, I don't know. But that you would, if you were doing these things in the office, you would. I used to be a Fulton County employee. You have to scan, and they keep track of all of that. So you have to scan your badge to get in to certain places. So if he's doing this, even as a contractor, contractors at the jail have badges. The medical providers have badges. They all have the badges that they scan. I open records to the
Grace and peace discernment files.
of them told me that he did not have a card, an access card. But in order to do this, I would assume he would have to have one to get into the DA's office, and I have been told that he had one, and those you'd be able to see when he went in and out.
Okay.
But I was denied that.
Anything unusual or irregular about, this is just an example, Bill, about the way he billed the county?
Completely. I mean, you would never see this. This is what I would call block billing. So one of them, for example, it's 28 hours over the course of 2 or 3 days. Team investigation meeting and drafting. I went back and looked to try and see, a lot of these were like drafting. And at the time, I'm not sure what would have been drafted because most of this was during the special purpose grand jury. So there's not really a whole lot of drafting. And we've obviously never seen anything that he specifically has drafted. But I also calculated these team investigation meetings. So the majority of the billing are things like meeting with team. So if you see here, it's got team investigation meeting. Then it's got team meeting and argument prep. And then meeting with team.
Ashliee brought these receipts.
Most
She was not
of his
playing
billing
games.
is meeting with.
Drop receipts in the chat. Write the word receipts. She is not playing games. Ashliee is not playing games with them.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
She is here for business. Get it.
Standard from what you see at block bill in 8-hour increments instead of, you said, 6-minute increments or more specifically, and does not really give a lot of identification of what's being done.
It gives pretty much zero, in my opinion, identification. I mean, this is not something that we would be able to submit to a client ever.
Wow.
I can't imagine. I mean, they would, if I billed them $2,000 for 8 hours of meeting with a team on one day, and just research without what I'm researching. I mean, you have to be detailed in your bills because that's accountability. I mean, that's the only way as lawyers we can be accountable. Our clients aren't sitting in our office while we're researching, so I have to say what I'm doing.
And somebody has to approve it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's ultimately Fonnie Willis that was approving these either personally or through her designated
Wow. This is
assistants.
Yes.
And there was a written contract with Mr. Wade and the Fulton County DA's office?
There was, yes.
All right, let's see if we can pull that up, Senator Dolezal. Am I right that there were, I think I've reviewed your documents, that there were more than one contract?
Yes, there were.
Is this the first one?
Yes, that's the first one.
All right, so that says it shall commence.
So far, if you're just jumping in, it seems like they're making a case that Fannie circumvented. This is just my assumption, and that she circumvented the proper process of hiring special counsel by making him a contractor. And now they're looking at his billing, and his billing looks a little bit suspect. He was getting paid $250 an hour, which is probably very reasonable for an attorney, for a lawyer. That's not the argument. The argument is that the billing looks a little bit suspect. I think they're making the case that that this is money was being funneled through Nathan to Fannie by way of paying him such an exorbitant amount. That's what I think they're working toward. Now they're looking at his contract that he had because he was able to keep a private practice and work for Fulton County as a contractor, I guess. This is bad. Oh my gosh.
Chief assistant, she heads that unit, and she was the one that was originally on the emails negotiating immunity and things like that. And then it switched over to, there was some issue, I believe it was with Governor Kemp, on him testifying when, all of that stuff, and Mr. Wade took over and said, I'm the only one with authority. And so Ms. Allen sort of stopped working on the case, and she hasn't really worked on the case since.
From your experience and your knowledge of Mr. Wade and Sonia Allen, does he have any special unique experience or expertise that would make him better at this anti-corruption work than the head of the anti-corruption department in the Fulton
Shots
DA's
fired.
office?
No, but I mean, other than, no, he would not. But Sonia Allen also hired Mr. Wade in Cobb County before this contract at, I think it's like $550 an hour or something, to investigate deaths in the Cobb County jail. So Sonia Allen was the chief. So when Neil Warren was the sheriff in Cobb County, Sonia Allen was the chief deputy. And so she basically ran the office, ran the sheriff's office. They had a couple different deaths, and there were some lawsuits over access to that. A lot of the local lawyers wanted access to what was going on with the jail deaths. And Ms. Allen hired Nathan Wade to do that work, to do an investigation. And so a lot of this came out because they were ultimately sued. So I reviewed, part of what I did in this case was I reviewed all of those documents as well. Mr. Wade had to testify because one of the news organizations sued them and said that essentially Ms. Allen hired Mr. Wade to try to get around open records, to say that it was an open investigation so that they didn't have to give the jail recordings to the families about how these inmates died. Mr. Wade was a witness and had to testify, and he had billed a lot of money, which I don't have the figure, but I've got the invoices, but he had billed quite a bit of money to Cobb County, but hadn't produced any documents. And so he had to testify, and his testimony was that everything was in his brain, that he didn't have any written documents from anything. But that's where.
Wait. The lady that they're talking about, is this the lady that allegedly he was having a relationship with before Fannie? Oh man, they going to whole jail. What? Wait. So this,
He took over that office. Miss Allen no longer had a job, and she was hired by Miss Willis to head the anti-corruption unit.
Okay. So from your documents you've produced and your news stories that I've read it, apparently there were other special counsel that were hired by Ms. Willis?
Yes.
And to work on these specific RICO cases or election fraud cases?
Yes, so there's several, and so that's.
All right, grace and peace, everybody. I have no idea what happened to the live stream, but yo, this is super interesting. Yo, this right here is out of control. I see some people saying that it froze on their end. I have no idea. Like mine just stopped and then told me to resume. I have no idea what happened. But okay, I can't. Hey, I'm enjoying this. This has been super interesting, but I gotta get ready to go. I gotta get over to the studio. So let's do this. So keep an eye on dearwokechristian.com and here on the YouTube channel. I'm gonna go ahead and update and do like a recap this evening. So let's do 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So hopefully that's enough for my West Coast Avengers to be able to jump on board. I cannot wait to hear what you all think about this. You got my email, by the way. If you hear something and see something like, yo, this is super interesting for me, just go ahead and send it to me now. I mean, there's my email, dearwokec@gmail.com. I will be, I need to get over to the studio to do this. I've already moved somebody's scheduled recording back. So I need to get over there. But send me an email if you run across something or you hear something that's really like profound, or if you find somebody doing a summary of it and you really want me to look at it, all of that's great. Send it to me. I have no problem with it. I appreciate all of y'all. Man, this is going to be wild. But before you leave, if you don't mind, go and give your guy a thumbs up on this joint because it would help out a whole lot. I have no idea why the video stopped earlier, so I'll look into that as well. But my plan, my intention is about 9 o'clock tonight. I'll post it as soon as I get an opportunity today on the channel. But yo, thank you so much. Yeah, please, Neva, let me know if you run across something in the comments or something, some bombshell happens. Let me know because I would love to talk about it today. This has been super interesting, and I appreciate you all. You all are great, man. Yeah, this has been the best time. I'm telling you right now. So I thank you. I appreciate you so much. Let me know what you think about it. Comment down below, all that kind of good YouTube jazz. And I will see you all this evening, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard. Until then, everybody, grace and peace.